Hello guys, so today I'm gonna make a very different video from what I usually do, and what I mean by very different, I basically mean I'm gonna do a chapter prediction. So as we know, in the latest chapter of My Hero Academia we saw what looked like Deku going into some kind of a dream state where he is seeing all of, well, not all of the previous, but some of the previous One For All users, including All For One, who gave the original user One For All, effectively speaking, and said user, of course, I mean the original user going up against his brother who is All For One, and then we see some other people like Nana, I believe it's All Might, and two other guys we haven't really seen before. And then of course Deku himself, although he seems to be shrouded in this dark shadow, which is probably just because it's a dream state. I don't really think that's symbolizing anything in particular, but I just thought I would kind of like try and predict what I think might happen in the next chapter, because I haven't really done a chapter prediction in a very long time, because I don't really know, it's just not really been a thing that I usually do. But now that I don't really have a lot of video ideas, I thought maybe I should, simply because that might help with the whole thing, you know. Maybe I don't want to just make one video each week because I don't have any topics that I want to talk about or have the energy to produce. But a prediction is fairly simple, you know, it's just brainstorming, really. Like, there's no deep thought process really involved, especially not with me, because I don't really think it's gonna be that deep, seeing as I'm not trying to predict the entire arc or an entire sequence of chapters. I'm simply trying to predict what's gonna happen in the next one, that being chapter 193, for those who may be watching this at a later time. In case you can't figure out which chapter I'm predicting, it's that one. Should be in the title, of course. So anyway, let's talk chapter 193, because it is going to be, I think, quite interesting. Now, I don't really think, as I said in my latest review, that we're gonna see like a whole fight between All For One and the original One For All user. I believe it's gonna be a very brief encounter, maybe not even a fight. It might be some clash, but I don't really think it's gonna be anything big. If anything, I think it's either gonna be we're gonna see just a short fight and then a dialogue between these two characters, or there's a second alternative that I believe could happen, which is of course that we're gonna see different parts of their fight at different times, because it is in a dream and Deku might not be able to control this dream. It's gonna be a little bit all over the place, because as I said in my latest video, my latest review, you know, in a dream things don't necessarily go as linear as you may think they do, because it's a dream, you know. It can be jump cuts and all kinds of shit going around in a dream. You have absolutely no control unless you're one of those people who can in fact control the dreams, but most people cannot, and I don't think this is a dream that Deku can control at all. I think this is a very random dream. He is just experiencing it, he's just there to watch. He's spectating whatever is gonna happen. And I don't really think this is gonna serve as a power-up or anything like that. I think it could end up being a key to Deku learning what he may have to do, especially maybe in terms of what he may have to do in order to progress One For All to the next stage. But I think at the end of the day, he's gonna have to work his way up there on his own. This dream is not gonna help him on a physical level. It may give him ideas, but that's about it. And I think that's what his whole dream sequence is going to be. Now, I don't really know how many chapters, of course, this dream sequence is gonna be. It could be an entire arc. I don't see that being the case though, seeing as it's a dream. I don't really see how they could stretch it to a whole arc. Maybe they can, but I just don't see that happening. I believe it's gonna be 1, 2, maybe 3 chapters at best. And in this upcoming chapter, I believe we're gonna get introduced to what this dream is exactly. We're not really gonna get anything huge, really. Maybe a dialogue between One For All and All For One, but it's not gonna be anything conclusive. I believe we're gonna get an idea, as I said, what this dream will be about, but the entirety of the dream is gonna continue throughout a couple of other chapters as well. So you're not really gonna be able to say that after this chapter it's gonna just stop. I believe that would be a bit quick and abrupt, because this is something that a lot of people want to see. We want more insight on One For All, especially the previous users. So if this can help us in order to do that, that'd be great. I think a lot of people will agree with that, especially if they touch on Nana Shimura, because she's one of those characters that we just want to learn more about. Now, apparently Nana Shimura is obviously going to be a big part in the origin volume of My Hero Academia, the one that's being released relatively soon, at least in Japan. So we may not get too much on Nana, but we might get a lot on obviously the original One For All user, because that's who this stream seems to be focusing on, as well as All For One. This is of course something a lot of people have been speculating could have to do with what the next arc is gonna be about. Maybe All For One is going to return relatively soon into the story, whether that's gonna be on a physical level or just, you know, through his dialogue with All Might and someone else maybe, who knows. But I believe it could be a sign that All For One is going to be more relevant in the story relatively soon. One thing that I would really like seeing in this dream, I'm not sure if it's gonna happen though, but I would like to know more about the mixing of quirks when it comes to One For All, because we know that at least Nana Shimura had a quirk before taking One For All, meaning that other quirks can be used with One For All. This is not really news, but what I want to know is exactly how they mix with One For All. Like, how would a normal quirk operate if you also have One For All? Like, do they merge? Because when the original user of One For All took in the power that All For One gave him, his original quirk actually merged with One For All, making it into one quirk. So I'm thinking, what if all quirks could potentially do this? Is there a possibility maybe now that we have this whole thing going on that One For All have been absorbing? Now, based around how One For All seems to be used, I don't really think this is the case, at least not on extreme levels. Maybe there are some small hints like here and there maybe, assuming this is the case, but I just want to know exactly what it is that made the original One For All user's quirk merge with the power stockpiling quirk that other quirks don't have. Like, did his quirk specifically exist to merge with another quirk, or is this something that would happen with any quirk now? It's just really a topic of curiosity on my part. Like, a lot of people might not agree with this, in fact. I'm just really curious exactly if that could be brought up in this dialogue, seeing as these two characters, the two original characters of One For All and All For One, are potentially gonna have a dialogue, so we could get some insight on something and that could be brought up. You know, the whole origin of the quirks, because we've heard it from All Might, who obviously heard it from his master, and she heard it from her master, and that goes way back to the original user. But as the story is passed on, there's a very high possibility that this story is gonna be distorted a little bit and we might not know the full picture. So it would be really cool to actually hear the story from the original user rather than just hearing it from someone who may not know the real story behind it. He only knows what he's heard from his master. Anyway, I'm gonna end my prediction here because, well, I think I've said enough, because like I said, I don't think the dream sequence is gonna end in one chapter. I think this chapter is just going to really touch on what the actual dream is going to focus on. We know it's gonna be something in terms of One For All and All For One, so I'm guessing a dialogue or a brief encounter between the two of them, and then we may find out why Deku's dreaming about them, you know, some small things like that. But then it is obviously gonna continue on in a couple of other chapters after this one as well. So I would love to know what you guys think about, you know, the next chapter, what you think is gonna happen, if you have any particular ideas as to what it might cover, or if you're just gonna go in, you know, being blind, you know, having no particular predictions or anything like that. And yeah, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everybody, Toga is waifu, Toga is Laifu.